What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here. That's Chuck Blunt. That's not Lawrence-Stample of the Nolecast, and we are coming to you not with a Winston reaction. It's just an instant reaction because Florida State loses on the road to UVA 46-38 in double overtime. A really exciting game, but certainly not the result that you wanted coming out of Charlottesville. Coming off of two really easy games that you felt like should have been more prepared for this. And I mean, just a lot of angles to discuss here. It felt like you were on your heels defensively a lot more than you were against Alabama. You didn't see guys stopped on first contact very often. I thought that was the story of the game to me was UVA consistently yards after contact, getting back to a manageable third down, getting it to a point where 3rd and 8 became 4th and 2, and you're allowed to convert that at 4th and 2 and plus territory for UVA to keep drives alive.
Would you say they were 9 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down combined?
Yeah, 9 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down combined. Just keeping the ball alive. Possession time 31:57 to 28:03. That's actually not that egregious. But in real time, it felt certainly more like UVA had the ball for long stretches. They had drives here they had a 15-play drive, a 12, a 16. And 2 7s, and then down the stretch in the fourth quarter, you largely shut him down after Morris, hurts his hand, and yet UVA is still putting up 46. I mean, granted, I know 2 of those scores were in overtime. I'll open up the floor. What first blush thoughts here?
I think we looked underprepared, and immediately we looked underprepared. We looked like, honestly, we look like when we played Oregon in the freaking playoff. Honestly, that's immediate. When I watched it, I was having like flashbacks of us not being conditioned enough, us not being prepared enough, and so when you have this team that is kind of being kind of hosh-posh put together, you have some opportunities to be able to be a good ball club. But do we really have the fortitude to be able to lean on each other when things don't go well? And when it came to the Alabama game, we got on our heels a little bit, but immediately we responded. So there was still not much adversity in that game. So we haven't dealt with much adversity, and our young guys who we needed to count on looked like deer in the headlights. So that was rough. That was my initial reaction of what I saw.
I think that's fair. I take this in the chat, and sometimes in instant, I feel it's helpful to react to some of these. They drink the perfume. They're not that good. Not number 8 good. I agree they're not number 8 good. I don't know that any of us really thought they were number 8 good. I thought UVA played their ass off, and really it's an FSU podcast. We're going to dissect the FSU side of this. But those guys played well. That I think is the best game that UVA has played so far this season. That they were really efficient. They knew where to go with the ball. I think they found some things to exploit, especially in the middle of the field with some of your zone concepts. Sorry, I don't think FSU matched routes really well underneath. I mean, on the outside, for the most part, I thought the corners were decent. They were largely just exploiting some of the coverage from the safeties and the backers repeatedly over the middle. But you can do that if you're staying in manageable down and distance. And UVA did a really good job running the ball. I think we had some concerns about James Williams' run defense, and that certainly came to fruition as well. They went at him, a lot. Darryl had a chance tonight to make some money, and I think he probably cost himself some money. Did not dominate like you would expect him to do. It did not look like the same guy that had snaps against maybe the best center in the country that Alabama has. Right, I thought he held his own that day pretty well, and tonight really did not dominate like you need. On a defense that doesn't have a lot of superstars, you kind of needed him to play up, and I really didn't see that out of him. But to Ricardo's point here, I also don't think that this team sucks.
No, honestly, they're still probably an 8 or 9 win team, which given where they were last year, that should have been the realistic hope and expectation. Yeah, we got a little caught up and had some fun with, oh my God, they might have this potential. There's also a reason we kept talking about what you needed for your playoff odds, because we never really bought in this was the ACC front runner to win the conference. So if you were going to get in, it was going to be on the back of a weak schedule and trying to go 11-1 or 10-2 and get an at-large bid. So I don't think all of a sudden this says they're going to go 6-6 or 7-5 or struggle to make a bowl again, but they're going to probably have some problems next week. And the key is not letting it continue into the pit game. And then you take care of everybody else on the schedule and let the chips where they fall where they may against Clemson and Florida. And you can still go 8-4 or 9-3, or maybe even 10-2.
Yeah. It was, I will say one thing before we possibly move on. The fight that we saw in them and the way that they responded to us being, obviously we're seeing massive adversity, more adversity that we've seen. Also, we have a lot of true freshmen. We have a lot of young guys that really haven't seen much playing time, and we're seeing adversity in real time away, and no one really faltered. No one really faltered. Every single person, even though they were making mistakes, even though we had some issues, they still played hard. And that is so much more to say than what it was last year. So it's like, if I'm Norvell, I can build on that. If you can't, though we may have been out of shape, though we may have been a little bit just underprepared, just totally, as far as in some respects, I can deal with effort. I could deal with guys not putting their head down and saying, all right, well, that's the game. I could deal with that all day. So I still think there's a ton of upside here to this team. There's just a piece of accountability there that I think got faltered over the last 2 weeks of making sure that we were kind of on the money during this kind of off period of the season.
I totally agree. I thought they were not as sharp tonight overall as they had been in prior nights. I mean, the Sawchuk fumble, that happens, right? The Castellanos, interception, like that's, I mean, honestly, like that's kind of that's a great play by the UVA kid, and
it was
guys, that's kind of the Tommy Castellanos experience, right? Like I know. I kind of laughed this week when he talked about going to the NFL. I'm like, dude, you're not an NFL player. I really hope you win your appeal. I'll take you back to Tallahassee next year for sure. Like, you're a nice running college quarterback. And certainly I think FSU knew that when they signed him out of the portal, right? Like, you're definitely under 6 foot. You're going to have some balls batted. You're going to have some difficulties at times throwing the ball over people's heads. And, like, I thought UVA did a good job of daring him to make layups consistently. He actually made some high-level throws. Like the ball that D-Rob drops is a dime.
Yeah.
Although I mean,
plus that throwback they tried to throw at one point that would have been a touchdown down the left side. That was in the third quarter, right?
Fourth quarter.
Yeah. That should have been a touchdown. He just threw it at the guy's feet. Like Sawchuk couldn't catch it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that happens, man. Yeah. But I think you kind of know what you signed up for. I wasn't like totally discouraged by his play. I know we had.
He kept the team in the ball game. Like, he kept making play. I wasn't totally thrilled with a few of the calls Gus went to, like throwing on 4th and 1. I know they loaded the box on you, but I think I want to go with my strength and just not try to throw it down the field with only 2 guys in the route. Like,
and 2 young tight ends in the route. Like, Deuce wasn't in the game, correct?
Yeah.
I need to go back and watch it. Obviously, the instance are instance for a reason, right? We try to keep these shorter so we don't say a bunch of stupid stuff that would upon the replay watch. Like, actually, this was not the case. But ultimately, Chuck, you said it 4 episodes ago. Like, man, I really wish we would see more from these young tight ends in some of these kind of gimme games, and like they were out there, they just didn't make a lot of plays, and that I think personnel use there was a little bit strange, but ultimately. You're hoping to pop one wide open there. And when UVA covered it, the guys, I think they were not expecting that to be covered, which the first time they tried to run it, Tommy takes it on that little like play action half roll. And as soon as he realizes it's covered, he just takes off and goes. This time UVA had better discipline on the edge. We didn't really have the ability to go out there and run with it. I think they did a better job in the second half of keeping him bottled up and making him a passer and not a scrambler. Although certainly in the one touchdown, the 4th and goal was wild, but I mean, just some of the mental errors, right? I thought the PI on Little was early. I didn't see it. Like, I know he came in on the pile late, but like, it's a pile up, and it wasn't like he was punching the guy or anything like that. But yet you also had a PI or a personal foul that's not called. I think on the sideline that easily could have been called, later in the game that they got away with. You got a running back false starting on 4th and long. Like,
what were our thoughts on Keziah Holmes not coming back in the game?
That was odd because he looked really good.
He looked great. He looked explosive. I have an issue with Shawchuck staying in the game as long as he did. I am okay with us pushing for our starters to play when they are the guy, but I again am having flashbacks of last season of us pushing someone that does not have the hand. That's why we have multiple people ready to go in the fold. We have Chroma, obviously, who was playing well. Keziah Holmes only saw the beginning first quarter. And Shawchuck, I'm so sorry, that first play, the first drive after the second half, he looked lackadaisical.
Yeah, and it was very slow.
Slow, it just didn't seem like that urgency was there. And Chroma came in and immediately had a not every single player is going to be on at all times. And that's why you have depth. So I don't understand why we didn't utilize that a little bit better going into the second half, or just seeing, hey, let's limit his reps. And therefore he made a couple mistakes, and that's not his fault. It happens. That's just being a ball player.
If you would have told me before the game FSU would put up over 500 yards and have over 50% success passing and running the ball, I would have thought FSU would have won by like 17. This game wasn't on the offense when it's all said and done. It just,
for sure.
I think they played admirably on offense, to be totally honest. There were some calls we'd like to have back, maybe some decisions to kick here and there that you can question, but I'm just more shocked at just how bad the defense played, down to down.
Couldn't respond.
Agreed.
It could not respond.
You let UVA be comfortable for most of the time, right? Which if it's a UVA podcast, if we had on like the orange and navy shirts, we'd say, well, hey, like we knew we didn't want to get in 3rd and long against that defensive speed, right? Like got to stay ahead of the chains. Did a good job executing. If you look at what Ty Simpson did, he had open guys against the secondary. He was late on the ball. Like Florida State had 5 PBUs in that game. Some of those were good plays by DBs, but some of those also were Ty Simpson making the right read, but making it late. I thought Morris did a good job tonight of being on time with his throws and really having a pretty good idea of where he needed to go with the ball and getting rid of it quickly. There really was not much pass rush on him. I mean, you had 2 sacks on the night, but I don't know if 2 sacks really reflects. Do you feel like he was pressured a lot?
No,
I really
no,
don't.
that was the concern, and I just kept making me think of next week, because if you give Beck that kind of time, I don't want to dwell on that, but I did not think they put much pressure on him, because that's all I kept thinking about was where is it? Like,
zero pressure. The pressure,
and then it got to the point where they didn't even feel like they had to run past the balls, and then they just started like multiple drives. It was just run after run after run, and there was nobody setting the edge. There was a mess on defense. If they don't get 3 interceptions, they might have gave up 60 points.
Yeah.
It never felt like they could legitimately get
0 top. Yeah, 100%. I was surprised that I wasn't surprised because it made sense, because we're having difficulties in the secondary, and guys were obviously sitting in the zones and they were picking us apart. But at the same time, let's go ahead and let's send the house. Like, I just don't know if we really blitzed enough or tried to mix things up enough in order to get after this guy. But I think there was a couple times we attempted. I think we attempted a couple times and they failed. So we just didn't go back to it enough. But that was really difficult, because with 4 down, we got to be able to get there at some point. Somebody's got to get there. We can't blitz. If we have to blitz, and the defense coach Long, the defensive end coach that was there when we won the Natty, he came from Florida, Coach Long, and he was amazing. And one thing that he prided himself was, he's like, don't worry about blitzing. Like, we're gonna get home. Like, we're gonna get home. Blitz as an option, but we're gonna get home. And if you cannot get home with 4 every other 3rd down, there's no winning on defense, because they're just going to pick you apart.
Is it time to bring Amari over to the defensive side of the ball permanently? Because he's one of the few fast fast twitch, explosive, big bodies you have to come off the edge, at least as just to try.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm thinking. At least as a try, why not?
If you're not getting a pass rush with these guys, like I feel like he at least has shown that athleticism, and he's big and strong. Why not try it? Like,
let's see it.
Because the Desir twins are good at being physical and like holding up at the point of attack, but they're not pass rushers.
They need development. Right. They need development.
They're not going to get back to the quarterback, right?
This is what I was talking about when people gave me a bunch of shit for this, and I was wrong about how good these guys would be. Clearly, like they're going to be good players for us. But like in a non-padded camp setting, we saw them in the Miami Nike camp, or sorry, Miami Under Armour. Excuse me, Under Armour guys. It's been Under Armour for a couple of years. It's been doing this for so long. Like non-padded camp, D-line should win easily, especially when that O-line group that day in Miami was not very good. Those guys weren't winning. Like they weren't anything special pass rusher wise. And I think that showed up tonight, unfortunately. To Nile's point, I mean, that 2013 team had dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they had a lot of guys who could win one-on-one. You don't have a lot of guys who can win, one-on-one on this team so far, but you also didn't do a good job of forcing like obvious pass rush situations. I mean, I'm curious here. I got to find this because we think the one stat side is kind of jacked up. How many 3rd and longs did UVA have tonight? Like home, 3rd downs, 3rd and long. So they only faced 3 3rd and longs all night.
Yeah,
guys, that's leverage right there. Like their leverage rate was off the charts. Just keeping leverage on the football. One thing I wanted to just pop in my mind: the substitution patterns with Chroma coming off. It makes me think that like they don't actually trust Chroma and Keziah to execute a lot of like the strange motion stuff, some of the protection stuff, some of the like some of the non-ball like handling ball, like actually carrying the football stuff. Like they seem to trust Sawchuk to execute a lot of the window dressing, whereas I think Keziah and especially Chroma, being a freshman, I think they just want him carrying the ball. Which obviously you hope as the year progresses that that gets better. But I agree with you. Like he did not have a ton of juice tonight. I thought the backs ran hard for the most part, with the exception of maybe Chroma on that opening drive.
Well, and even early,
Chuck,
like in the first half, he was hitting holes very hard and getting 6-7 yards at a time, and then all of a sudden, as Nile brought up in the second half, it was weird. He was just kind of tiptoeing up to the line and getting hit. Like immediately, and we were winding up in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8 all the time instead of 2nd and 5 and 2nd and 6 where you want to be. So it makes me wonder if something tightened up on. Did he pull? Like
he looked different completely.
We continued to see him, so I would guess not. I don't know. It was just very odd.
Body language. His body language, everything about him. I was like, this. He looks lethargic. I don't understand why we're not seeing him create effort plays, whereas Chroma is coming in there and he's creating effort plays. He's forcing himself to be able to get a couple yards. So that was a little bit rough, but I think all in all, when it comes to the effort that we saw across the board, it was kind of tough because it didn't seem like the effort was going in a direction that everyone could be a part of. It almost seemed like everyone was just trying to do whatever they could, which if that's the case, that's a big part of the hosh poshness, the unity of the team having to create the climb. And that's one thing we always talk about: the climb. The climb ain't never straight. It's not. We're just not going to ascend directly to the top. There's going to be adversity, and the adversity that we saw tonight it could possibly even make the season. Right? You got to get hit in the mouth. You got to have Tommy come into that locker room tonight and be pissed off. You got to have certain people in there be pissed off. The Earl Little, who unfortunately didn't wrap up enough tonight, which I know he's going to be working on himself because he is a hell of a player. He is a dominant player. Seeing him, it seems he's good in his keys. Well, he's really good in his keys. But I think if we can formulate a effort that is tried and true, no matter whether there's adversity or not, I think that's the kind of the little thing that we're missing. And how do you create that? That's not something that can be just snapped overnight with a portal. That's something that has to get built through games like this,
Yeah, I completely agree there. I like, looking forward, I think there are quite a few things to build on. I would not like, I don't know. In the instant reactions, you always see all the comments from the fans. Oh, this team sucks now. They don't suck. They're actually like a pretty decent football team. They're a differently built football team, but overall, I think they did a decent job cobbling this together in a portal after a 2-10 season. And there's not like a ton to be super pissed about. So William McMillan here, as I put this on screen, definitely want to thank all of our sponsors, because sometimes we forget to do it in the instant reaction, which is not good podcasting by me. But Chad obviously is distraught, and I mean lives and dies every play, like diehard Nole, 600+ loans to the Nolecast program, legendary team, does an awesome job with their loan program. 844 FSU loan is that number to call. Definitely want to check them out for sure. And maybe not tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe he'll take his mind off the game if you call and get a home loan tomorrow through Chad. McMillan here in the chat says, stop playing zone. Guys, I don't think you're built to play a lot of man with your backers and safeties.
There's I think you kind of saw that. They were running those crossers and the LBs were getting killed.
Guys, Earl Little got benched last year for a reason, right? Like, he's not a man coverage guy. I don't think these backers are really great man coverage guys. You saw in the wheel route, which was a great call by them, they get Elijah Herring ISO'd there. Like that's a good call. It reminded me of 2000 and was it 2010? Vatek with Tyrod Taylor hits you. You're going into the south end zone in Charlotte in the AFC Championship game, and Tyrod floats it because they had Marcus White on a little like zone thing, and he couldn't carry it, past like 10 yards, and it was kind of the same play, just into the boundary there. Yeah. Sides of the field flipped, but like that's not a guy who you really want playing a lot of man coverage. Nicholson probably could, I think, but you can't just start playing man coverage because one backer can do it. Those guys they got exposed a little bit in some of the zone stuff. You're not just going to just totally scrap your defensive scheme after 4 days or 4 games into the season. You got to keep fighting and trying to do better, basically. I would be a little bit concerned about the Miami game because the run schemes are not the same, but like their games where Miami's going to run duo like 30 or 34, like 35 times. And you got to be ready for that because, UVA got some movement at the point of attack tonight, certainly on Williams. I didn't. Did you guys notice anything from Lions tonight?
No, not much. I didn't, and unfortunately, I didn't see much from Darryl either. Early, I think we didn't move. We didn't move anywhere. I think first of all, their game plan was great. I thought the offensive game plan was phenomenal, but we didn't really move a ton. Where in the Alabama game, we were moving constantly. We stunted. I want to say every other play there was a stunt. There was some sort of game, even in the run game. Certain games in the run game to where that tackle kind of pinches in and that defensive end comes around are really effective, and we did those things. And I think that's again where I think you have the Desir twins, where they showed up a lot because they're very aggressive to where if you can have them stunt, they're gonna get the stunt, they're going to rip through and get free. But they're so raw in their technique that being able to really fit into a gap and hold that gap and command that gap is difficult for them at this point, especially playing with actual college players. So I think if we can, this upcoming game versus Miami, obviously we're kind of moving on a little bit here. Going into Miami, I think we can still hold our own if we can get back to that game plan. Can we get back to that game plan? I'm kind of going ahead of myself, but I think that might have been one of the issues where just the guys that we had just weren't. If our game plan is to stunt and to be able to cross tackles and cross guards, and we are now sitting and having to really play a solid man defense, that's kind of the result of it. Tony White's going to see it and be like, I don't think we could do that next week. We're going to have to figure out another game plan on how to utilize that. So we'll see.
Yeah, you certainly can't. Like, I think some of these guys are, they're trying to fly upfield, and with some of these zone schemes, they're like, all right, cool. Like I'll take you where you want to go, but where you want to go is actually kind of where we want you to go as well. Once we know what your path looks like there.
I get the concerns from some people on the scheme, but if the tackling was better, it makks a world of difference. Yeah. I mean, how many times was it going to be 3rd and 6 and instead it wound up 3rd and 2, or it was going to be 4th and 5 and they were going to punt and instead it was 4th and 2 and they went for it? I mean, if you just tackle better, don't ride a guy for 20 yards down the field and let them get all the way down to the red zone. Like little things like that. You bring those back. That's not scheme. That's just
we weren't running.
Tackling.
We weren't pursuing.
Yeah.
We never
and poor tackling just in
poor
general. It did not look like they looked like they had competitive rust. We talked about whether or not the 3 weeks was good for them between Bama and this game. That looked like a team that hadn't brought somebody to the ground for real, playing for 4 quarters in a month.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. I mean, because most of those starters hadn't played more than 20 or 30 snaps the last 2 games.
Agreed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I bet you if you go back and watch this, and it won't be here tonight on Stats Bomb, but we'll have it on the Monday show. Like, I bet you when you look at where the catch point was compared to like where the guy actually ended up on a lot of those short throws, we talked about this in the preview show, right? It was, hey, like UVA is going to complete balls underneath. You got to tackle them. And UVA so far this year, and granted, it's a 3-game sample set or a 4-game sample set. They have so far been a poor red zone team, right? And you have got to like force them to kick field goals. And tonight, you didn't. Like they really did not do a very good job of playing good red zone defense at all.
Only field goal they kicked was an OT.
I mean, how long were UVA scoring plays? Really, they weren't.
They had the one like 29-yard touchdown run, but most of them were just Morris down there in the red zone inside, like 1st and goal or 2nd and goal inside the 10, making something happen and beating somebody to the pylon.
Yeah, you didn't allow the ball over the top really at all.
Yeah, because didn't he have 4 rushing touchdowns?
I think 3.
Probably.
Maybe.
I mean, you had the
very possible.
Morris had 2 scrambles for sure, right? The one Jamari Taylor where it looked like he was down and he just kept going, like that was obviously pretty huge.
Morris had 3 rushing touchdowns by himself. He only had 37 yards on 8 carries, but 3 of those went for touchdowns down there inside the 10. Like, that's the ball game.
We could not stop it either.
Yeah.
No, that was. I mean, it was not a good defensive effort. I do think you got like you can get out coached in a game without meaning you suck as a coach, right, guys? Like sometimes you're just going to get out schemed, and like if it happens all the time, then you make a change, right? I don't think like. We could say Tony got out coached, and I think he probably did scheme wise. I also thought he out coached, like one of the finest offensive coaches we've seen in like the last decade of college football in Kalen DeBoer in week 1. Like it happens, right? Like that sometimes they're going to have a better answer for you in that given week. And tonight I thought they did ultimately. If you look at like the future schedule, like there are not a lot more games that I'm like super worried about here ultimately. But if you play like this, you're going to be in a lot more nail biters.
Right.
Sure.
They're going to be running sprints on
the Pitt and the NC State game are going to be much more difficult if you play like this and tackle like this.
Yeah. Pitt, I would expect you to hit more explosive like home runs, just because of the way Pitt plays their defense. They're very much like tackles for loss oriented. Let's try to get them off the field. Like they'll give up explosives, which may fit what you do, but also NC State doesn't really, not this year. They'll make you complete balls underneath, and we got over top of them a couple times. But I thought UV did a pretty good job of not allowing like the 70-yard hit. Like the out the gate. Danzy runs. I mean, Danzy had a really really nice run after the catch on the one, obviously, but
they held FSU to only 4 explosive rushing plays. That kind of tells the story. Like we're used to getting 4 big rushing touchdowns in the game. This time you had 4 total explosive rushing plays. And Danzy's 30-yarder was probably the biggest. I don't remember one bigger than that, right? There was a 23-yarder by Chroma.
That's probably
30-yarder by Danzy and like a 17-yarder by Sawchuk, maybe.
Your long rush play on the night was 23.
Okay, there you go.
I think the one Danzy play they count as a pass.
They did. Yeah, his long was a 30-yard pass reception.
I mean, this is going to be an offense that kind of lives and dies by the big play. It's largely what you signed up for. I think it's pretty much what you have personnel wise. And UVA did they allowed chunk plays, but not like the grand slam plays. Right. Is probably the best way to put that. But yet you still were okay in the red zone overall. So like it wasn't like they executed their plan of stopping you on the explosives and then forcing you to too many field goals, right? Like you largely scored touchdowns in the red zone. So
the pick was really the pick was the difference.
Deuce Robinson obviously had a phenomenal game, and as well as Jabril Rawls, he had a great game. And those are the type of players that you're able to anchor to, and you're able to just push through some of those things. Because without those two players, this game is a completely different ball game without them too. Both of them made plays when it was needed. But I will say, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, I don't know if the game plan was really what was the detriment. I think overall it was the conditioning, because when you have guys that can fly around like we saw versus Alabama, a lot of the Alabama, there was some plays, but a lot of it was just game tackling. We pursued to the ball so well that those I would say, let's say there's like 50 yards that they're not able to gain because we're able to get them down 4 yards sooner, 4 yards earlier, and those add up exponentially. So when we're out of shape, we can't pursue to the ball. So that means that we're going to get more first downs. Once we get more first downs, it perpetuates us being more tired, right? And then we have to put in players that are subpar, that aren't ready to really be in this ball game. And then and those things happen when we get into the red zone. So it's this, if we aren't in shape, that is the fundamental. I think that is where Tony White's going to be the most upset. Is because he's going to look at it and he's going to be like, I did not prepare these guys well enough. I should have ran them more. I should have realized that they did not get as much practical in-game playing time. And if the defense would have held up in some capacity, that would have took more pressure off the offense, and the offense would have been able to do what they needed to do. Gus went in his bag over and over again, and he's like, I'm running out of stuff here. All right, coach. I'm trying to hold some stuff for later on in the season, but I got to open this stuff up now because I have no choice. But it's so funny how we talk about it's a team sport and you have all these individual efforts, but if there is a chink in the armor, and it's a chink in the armor that was actually something that we could control, that's the toughest part. Not, okay, well, damn, they outcoached us, they outplayed us, they outconditioned us. And that, again, is what happened when we played Oregon. The game plan was better, but they outconditioned us where we got tired really quickly, but then also we made all these stupid mistakes. It's almost a replica game. It's crazy how similar that game was. They ran the hurry up, and the last point I'll make is, I looked at that game and I said, if they decide to stop running this hurry up, at any point in time, we will slip back into this game. There's teams that maybe the second half, we'll forget about the hurry up. We'll just run it slow. They didn't. And then they started running the hurry up again in overtime. Yeah. They didn't do it the first overtime, but in the second overtime, they decided to do it. And that's when they broke. It was all, that's what it was. And that sucks.
I think that they also would do it at times when they got certain personnel on the field. I don't know if we can go back and chart that. Maybe so, but I probably won't have time to chart every single snap with the hurry up and not. But if we can get that stats wise, I bet you that they went fast when they had certain personnel looks that wouldn't allow you to sub. I also I don't want this to sound like excuse making, because it's not. You guys give up 48 points to Virginia. That it is what it is. I do think sequencing in sports matters a lot in terms of how and when it creates belief. And for you, you defensively, you come out first two drives, you're kind of nails, right? Yeah. Okay, give up first down, punt, then you stop them 3 and out, and then your next two drives, you have turnovers. After the one, obviously it's a good run, and then Sawchuk fumbles immediately. It gives them a short field, and then they go down and score. Their best play on that drive, honestly, was the BS personal foul. Yeah. Right. And then you go out, you have a great drive, a great respond drive. Then you throw the crazy pick there on the 15 or the 20 or whatever that was. Well, actually, it was probably even closer down because Tommy was in gun, and then the ball pops up. But I thought that gave Virginia belief, and there is something to be said for when those turnovers happen. Again, 48 points is not on this, but I thought that gave UVA quite a bit of belief, because after they go down and score on. Because the first couple drives for UVA, they didn't even look good. They scored a touchdown on a short field when they were stopped, and they get a personal foul there on that and a QB scramble. And you go right down, and you shove it right down their throat, and then you throw that pick. It was oh shoot! Now you got a real ball game.
Well, I also thought they lost control. I thought they lost control of the game when they went up 21-14 and then allowed that easy touchdown drive before the half and then didn't score coming out of the locker room. Yeah, so you lost an opportunity where you could have taken it from a 14-0 deficit to a 28-14 lead. And instead you were in a 21-all game and you were giving them the ball back. Like that sequence really screwed up the control FSU had seemingly taken when they went up 21-14. Because you got that last turnover to go up 21-14. Looked like they were maybe about to start to roll them.
Yeah. And
then that drive just sucked the life out of the team going into the locker room at halftime, it seemed like.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with all that. Injuries wise, I think you came out pretty healthy.
Yeah,
that's positive.
Great. That can't be like. I'm not trying to just find positives here, but like this team does not have great depth.
Right.
Yeah. I would be a lot more worried if you came out of this game all jacked up injury wise. And I'm like, oh shit, like 6-6 is really in play because we know, like 2-10 happened. You're not gonna be able to portal every single spot perfectly, right? And like Joe Wilcox comment here on the screen, recruit better. That's how you fix the defense. Yeah, largely yes, right? Like you need more difference makers up front. Those guys are extremely expensive in the portal, and if you miss in high school recruiting as often as they have, recently, now the Desir twins are nice pieces. They'll probably be better next year. But yeah, like that does kind of show up, right? You ask James Williams to play a lot of run defense, and
there's a reason. There's a reason Nebraska only used him in pass rushing situations.
Well, right.
We're starting to see that.
And you didn't have enough of those pass rushing situations tonight to actually use him to his strengths, which I think the problem is, like, who else do you put in there?
Amari's who I want to see. I just want to see Amari. Yeah. He's one of your fast twitch guys. I just give him an opportunity. You're not getting consistent pressure from the ends right now. And I don't feel like it makes sense to continue to just let him sit on the sideline when he's the 4th or 5th tight end they're going to use. Let's try to get the guys that are built to get after the quarterback. Let's give them an opportunity and see if they can do it. I'd like to see it.
Also, like, he's probably never going to be an amazing blocker, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's tight end is a late developing position. We see a lot of times guys are like not great in college and they end up being like really good NFL tight ends. And I'm not going to write off the possibility that maybe you get one awesome year at a tight end out of him, or maybe somebody in the NFL does eventually. But it's also from like a payment perspective. And you got to think about this now as a bit of like, I know it's like not a true salary cap, but it's kind of a soft salary cap in some ways with your spending. Like, if you're spending that much on a guy, you need to play him, I think, at a premium position. And they clearly lack right now on the defensive line. Like, you need to have him, I think, to your point, playing more defense. And maybe second half of the year, light comes on for him. I would scrap the tight end thing, honestly. Like especially in this offense, then you have a good college tight end in Pittman.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best case for Amari? 4 or 5 targets in a game? Like, is that worth it? Is that a good?
You also have a large cost at Landon as well.
And the kid from Nebraska.
Yeah, he's hurt right now.
Right.
But and then maybe that's why they're keeping Amari over there. I don't feel like you're getting the best ROI having him.
No.
Maybe not even playing on defense and getting a handful of snaps on offense. It just seems like a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, there's no reason. No reason not for him to be able to get some play time. There's no reason for it at all. Even just on a third down, even just throwing him in there, zero reason for him to be able to create some opportunity there. Especially if we're not seeing much production, like we may see him going into Miami. I wouldn't be surprised.
Did Squirrel get banged up?
No, when they stormed the field, he was the one laying on the end zone, and
I was wondering. Trampled.
That's why people are asking, because the fans came on so fast. Squirrel was laying on his stomach when the swarm went right over him. So hopefully he didn't get trampled. It looked really bad. People on even national media was asking that question.
Yeah,
like, did that poor kid get trampled?
Yeah,
that was a scary moment. I get they were excited, but they lost very quickly.
Yeah.
All right. If you had to play this game again, how much would you really change your prediction?
I wouldn't.
Like, just based on what we could have known.
I don't know if I would expect FSU to win by 11, but I still think there was some. I'll be curious to see what the post-game win expectancy is from SP Plus. Yeah. Because I have a feeling it's going to be in FSU's favor. They put up 500 yards at 55% success rate. Like that tends to favor you, especially when you have a couple turnovers as empty possessions. That tends to favor you in that type of metric. And so I feel like if you play that game again, I would still take FSU as the favorite at minimum.
Yeah, same. Big time.
Yeah, I agree. It felt in some ways, to use like a basketball analogy, it's like, all right, we'll give you some of these open 2-point looks, and team just shot well from some of those difficult 2-pointers.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, all right, it happens sometimes. Like,
the
kid's gonna get hot.
And like maybe Virginia's good. Like I know we didn't really consider that, but maybe their offense is legit. It sure they made FSU look like Stanford on defense. Maybe that's just a good offense that's going to win a lot of shootouts, and maybe Virginia is an 8 or a 9 win team this year. We said Tony Elliott's done a good job of turning them around. Maybe they aren't 6-6, maybe they're 8-4 or 9-3.
That's possible for sure. I mean, if you think of like Coastal, we know is really awful.
Yes.
Stanford is bad,
and William and Mary's an FCS team. But they played a track meet with NC State. Maybe
true.
Maybe there's just a big group of teams that are all 7-5 to 9-3 in the middle of the ACC, like we thought there was. And FSU, Virginia, and NC State are some of those teams.
Yeah.
If you're a Georgia fan watching this, you're like, oh, we're going to kill Alabama.
Yeah.
You know,
like what you're thinking. Yeah, we're about to find out.
That's kind of the hard point of college football, is like you only have 3 data points to go on, and 2 of them are largely irrelevant. Like
the transitive property doesn't always work in college football.
Correct.
We all know that. Like styles make fights, and that type of game just gave FSU fits, just like FSU style gave Bama fits, especially in a game 1. Like I don't know that you can predict tomorrow's outcome by tonight's final score.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not sure there are that many other quarterbacks who are going to be like that in rhythm and that accurate over and over again on your schedule. There are certainly some teams who could run the ball down your throat if you play this way, you know, on defense, right? Like catching blocks. I mean, I thought Nile had like the most pressing points, like just not maintaining gap integrity at all. Like that was some of those holes are just big, man.
Well, and a lot of down to down they weren't awful. Down to down they weren't awful against the run, but they were terrible in situational. Running situations. Like that was the more concerning part. They got themselves in some decent down and distances a few times.
Yeah, we did. It was just so inconsistent. It was so inconsistent. It was it was just so all over the place. And again, when they put their foot on the gas, as you saw these guys rotate in, there was just no answers. And when you don't have any answers, again, it's just so demoralizing that it just continued to steamrolls. And yeah, I really don't think that I saw anything amazing coming from Virginia. I didn't see anything that would make me feel like if Florida State was in half better shape and we did halfway better job, that we wouldn't have dominated this game. We really beat ourselves in so many areas of this game, and it's really tough. It's really tough. When you beat yourself, it's the worst.
So, I mean, to the point, I don't have all the stats on this, but taking a look, like, you know, you got what, 3rd and 7 from the 32, the ball's caught at 36, and you know, fine. Advancing more yards to set up a short 4th down there. Then they get 2 first downs. You know, they're both on rushes. Okay, then 3rd down here. You know, Morris rushes for the touchdown. That's on the scramble. And then here's kind of the stuff I was talking about, right? You know, pass for 1, 8 yards after the catch, 7 of those after contact, right? Mm-hmm. You know, short pass here, caught at 35. That's a 3-yard pass in the air, goes for 8 total. Again, after that was definitely one of the ones after contact. You know, pass here for 9, caught at the FSU 28. So that's what, 4 yards extra. They had a lot of yards after contact on some of these short passes, and you didn't tackle it well.
Yeah. And we kind of called that out in the preview. Like that was the number one key that Nile laid out: swarm to the ball and let's tackle well. Yeah. They just didn't. Like, it happens.
And they couldn't because they were tired as hell.
Yeah,
they couldn't. They didn't. They had no. It was there were some plays that you saw in the pile. The guys were just standing around watching the guy finish, and I'm like, this is not what I saw from Tony White's defense. And
they ran 82 plays.
They ran 32 plays in the first quarter.
Yeah, they were gassed.
Yeah. I mean, 82 when you consider double overtime is probably not like that insane.
Right.
32 in the first quarter. Obviously, there's no overtime in the first quarter. Like that's a ton to face in Q1 there, and it kind of sets the tone. Like we were talking about a second ago, the two first quarter turnovers, it let UVA have the ball a ton. And like, what was their possession in the first quarter? So I mean,
I saw it.
Drive continues in, but
it was not. It was 9 minutes to 6 in the first quarter, I believe, when they tweeted out the box score at the end of the first quarter.
Oh, because the one drive in Q1 continues into Q2 because it started. Okay, gotcha. That I was reading this. I was like that adds up more than 15 minutes. So, okay, that's kind of all I got. What else you guys have here that we need to discuss?
No, I mean, I'd like to watch it again and see. I'm sure there's some bright spots we've missed and some things that aren't as bad as we remember in the heat of the moment. I don't know.
I have a couple more positives. I like seeing Luane McCoy in there in critical situations, catching some balls, or at least getting open.
Yes.
Like Tommy missed him twice.
Yeah, he hit that one, the one crosser.
The one on the crosser.
He would have been gone. He would have been turned right up the right sideline and probably gotten a touchdown out of it.
But for a guy who's been hurt and like who they haven't always trusted at a high level, like I was actually encouraged to see him playing meaningful snaps in a conference game and looking okay. Right. I thought it's encouraging that Danzy's out there running some real routes and like continuing, not against Kent State, like actually running.
He looked very jittery out there.
He did.
Like
young.
But between the one where it looked like a fumble that got overturned, then there was another one he did catch, but he kind of fell down because he was trying to suck it into his stomach. He looked unsure of himself compared to what we got to see the last couple weeks. That was a very eye-opening moment, I think, for him just to be in a conference game on the road in that environment with it being such a tight game, and it looked like it kind of got to him a few times.
That little element that we saw from Danzy is why the portal exists. That's why the portal exists, because that right there is what you can never know when you're recruiting someone. Yeah. Danzy going to be an absolute dominant receiver, but that little element has to get fixed, right? That has to get worked out of him and worked out of his system. And when you are paying all this money and you are trying to win and create a winning team, and you have someone like that do that in a game like this, there's no taking it back, right? There's no taking it back. So you're paying for a premium when you have your offensive line who have all started in these games. They're not going to have that issue. You're not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, is the lights too bright for him right now? No, the lights aren't too bright. He's going to play the game that he needs to play because I've seen it over and over again. I think Danzy, again, is going to be an absolute dominant player. This is something that happens to majority of those freshmen, of those young guys. And unfortunately, it happened at a poor time for Florida State. But man, that's why the portal, if people talk about the portal, that's why the portal is so important. You could build a team just like that because that is gone. That got fixed in this game. You know what I mean? For the next team, or hopefully he stays with us. But for that next situation, he's ready to go because he's like, man, listen, I don't know what that was, but I'm gonna fix it. But yeah, I don't have any other remarks as far as the game. I personally think that we played a incomplete game, and I think that if we were in halfway better shape, we would have easily have won this game. We would have wore them out. We would have got off the field, and it would have steamrolled into the confidence of the offense. But the confidence, that's why these are young players. That's why college football is amazing. College football is amazing because anyone can get beat on any given day. And the reason why is because these kids are impressionable. They're impressionable. Snap after snap, momentum is everything in college football. And we watched it on live TV just now. That is why.
Yep. No doubt about it. All right, guys. We'll do the rewatch and we'll join you again on Monday. It's been the Nolecast.